right. I want to thank all of you for coming. For anyone who hasn't been to one of my town halls, I've probably done 40 or 50 of them. Typically I do them every month. These past couple of months we stood down a little just because some other commissioners were doing town halls. I wanted to give them an opportunity to start getting a different view and some people going up there. In fact, there's another commissioner doing one right now. But I wanted to make sure as we were getting into the end of the year for the county, as well as the new session for Tallahassee, that we had an opportunity to talk before we got all busy with the holidays and other events. So again, my name is George Kruse. I am the chair of the Board of County Commissioners, but everything we talk about here is literally just my opinion. I'm not speaking on behalf of the county or the Board of County Commissioners. And I'm at large, so while most of you are probably in District 5, some of you are probably District 1, further out east, some of you maybe 2, 3, or 4. But I'm at large, so I represent every single person in Manatee County, and I'm the longest serving commissioner on our board. This is the end of my 5th year right now, in my 2nd term. But how my town halls work is I don't have a presentation. I'm not here to tell you anything that you may not care about. I don't like to waste people's time or just try to pretend something's important if you don't think it is. So my town halls always have been 100% attendee driven. So it's entirely questions, and I'll give you the best answer I possibly can. I'll answer anything that I legally am allowed to. I listen to comments and suggestions you have, and I listen to criticisms you have, and I have my aide Dana back there, and she's typing everything down. So if you have any questions, concerns, is something you want me to follow up on, she's going to be recording that, and we'll get your contact information, and either myself or Dana will follow up on any questions you may have that I can't answer right here. So with that, I've got no presentation. That's the extent of it. So I am open to any questions anybody may have. Yes, sir.
I have two. My first one is with Lorraine not being fixed until 2031, 2032, what's the county's intention of fixing the sidewalks that should have been fixed a long time along Lorraine? There's 3 sections, 6/10 of a mile, 6/10 of a mile, actually 4, 7/10 of a mile, and 2/10 of a mile on Lorraine that are incomplete. That's number one. And number two is the last meeting we had, and I don't think it was when you were here, was kind of a county perspective. I cornered one of the gals and I said, you know, we kill the most pedestrians here in Florida. What are you doing about crosswalks? And I asked her if she knew how many crosswalks were on White Eagle between 44th and 64, and she says, I don't know, I'll drive it. And I said, well, let me tell you this, there's 0. And look at all those developments, and the kids gotta go across the street, so they gotta go down to the big intersections. I said, we gotta do something with crosswalks to make it safer, and it's not that expensive. So that's my 2 questions.
Sure, and these are great because they're both kind of 2 parts of a similar question. I've been pretty outspoken for my entire time on this board that I don't really like roads. I prefer multimodal. That's why I've been pushing for the trail system. That's why I push for sidewalks. That's why I push for intersection improvements over widening of roads. What you end up with widening roads is you just end up with less safe roads. You may get someplace 30 seconds faster, but you also have a chance of just not getting there at all for very bad reasons. And that goes with pedestrians as well. I've always pushed to fully fund our sidewalks. I've tried to pull roads out, like Lorraine, for instance. That was going to be $400 million to finish widening that one section from 64 to 7. $400 million. Alternatively, our Public Works said, here's a whole list of everything else we can do with the money we have instead of that. And that includes a lot of sidewalk repair. I don't recall if Lorraine's on there, but I know Lorraine's sidewalks were part of a conversation. Hear me out. So I'll certainly look into that, but I know there are sidewalks up near the high schools. Typically, we try to focus on the sidewalks that require school walking, because if you're within 2 miles of the school, you don't get a bus to pick you up. So we've raced up for Parish High School and fixed sidewalks up there. We fixed some sidewalks and some intersections, and did an intersection by Mona Jane, because we want to make sure the kids are safe. So I'll look into the crosswalks on White Eagle. The thing with White Eagle is it's a 4-lane road and there's a lot of crosses to it. So you got the crosswalks at the lights, obviously, but you don't have the crosswalks at some like on Pope and some of these other roads that kids are coming across. I think their assumption was, I'm not saying it's a correct assumption, their assumption was most of the kids outside of the major lit intersections were going to be on the west side of it. When you get to the east side of it, then you start getting into situations where they are going to be crossing at 44th and White Eagle, a place like that, where there is a crosswalk at a lit intersection as well as crossing guards during school time. But I will look into that. We've done some mid-block lit crosswalks, like, I know it's ridiculous to see when you're driving it, but like Cortez, for instance. Just because it gives you a visual, not saying we do that to White Eagle, but where you can press a button and it allows mid-block crossing. That's something that this board has been supportive of, so I'll certainly look into it, talk to Public Works. It's a fairly cost-effective way of providing safety, especially across 4-lane roads. We are looking at, I believe, next board meeting, lowering a bunch of the speed limits. I don't believe White Eagle is one of them, but there are some roads, Moccasin Wallow, Lorraine, Rangeland, I think, a handful to lower some speed, Old Tampa, to lower the speed limits, just because some of our speed limits have gotten a bit extreme in terms of the accidents being caused. You can save pedestrians and save fatalities by lowering the speed limits a little bit, where they probably should be. But I will look into them because we have used the mid-block crosses before, and we are trying as a board to fund sidewalks. That's been a priority, sidewalks and trails.
Bob McCants, when I messaged him and everybody else, he said, there's no goal, there's no line, there's no bid to fix the sidewalks on the range.
Sure.
I know that.
That may be the case, because up until 30 days ago, maybe not 30 days ago, it was beginning of summer, we started talking about, we were gonna widen the road. So at no point in time would it have made sense to use your tax dollars to bid out the repairs of sidewalks that were gonna be torn up based upon the CIP at that point in time. So we wouldn't have bid that out, because the intention was to not have those sidewalks there until the road was finished. Now the road's not being finished, so now we have to say, okay, what can we do with Lorraine? Because I know we're looking at a light at 59, and we're looking at some other improvements that can be done at substantially less than $400 million. One of which would be crosswalks, sidewalks, things like that. But again, those wouldn't have been bid at this point in time because we didn't anticipate needing them at this point in time until that road got taken off or deferred on the electric. But I will look into it.
What's the latest on the good old roundabout on University?
What's the latest on it? What do you mean?
I'm sorry?
What do you mean? I know what you're talking about. They're continuing on with it.
What stage is it at?
I have no idea, because that's a public-private partnership. I don't know specifically where SMR and Public Works are in terms of the stage of it. It's still moving forward. I don't know the stage of it. I couldn't tell you what their process is, because once it gets to public-private, there's a certain timeline and cost reimbursement associated with it, but now it's in the hands of the private portion of the public-private, so we don't get the same regular dialogue as I would get Moccasin Wallow, where I get like bi-weekly emails saying, here's the status of buying this right of way, and here's the status of phase 3. I don't get that on public-private partnership.
So Manatee County you're not involved?
We're involved, it's a public-private partnership. We're not the ones physically building it. That's what public-private partnerships are. Like, we weren't directly involved in the north portion of Fort Hammer Road through North River Ranch. That was Neal Communities and a public-private partnership. We were involved in so much that we had to approve the designs for it, and we reimbursed a portion of the cost to it, but it was the private sector who was building it, because they could build it faster and cheaper than we can. So I'm saying we don't get the same weekly dialogue or bi-weekly dialogue like we do on some of our
So a
projects.
private is going to be building the roundabout?
Sure. Well, technically a private builds literally everything, because I don't know what I look like, but I don't personally build roundabouts. Even when the county is building a roundabout, we go out and hire Woodruff and Sons. We go out and hire Ripa. We go out and hire a private company to still build it for us. It's just a matter of whose signature is on the bottom of the contract. And in the case of a public-private partnership, the signature is the private sector. When it's the county, the signature is myself as the chair or Charlie Bishop as the county.
So the stewardship district is who she needs to contact for that question.
Yes, because they're the ones physically building it. They would have a better timeline in terms of where, because I know that there was some right-of-way acquisition that was needed on the corners, and then whatever their timeline is. I could get that information for you. Dana can get your contact information, because I can always ask, but I don't regularly ask for what the timelines are on private sectors. I have enough things I'm asking about on my own. But we do keep track, I mean, we can get that information for you, but it's SMR and the stewardship who's physically building it, they would have a better handle on their timelines and their status.
Can you clarify where that's located that she's talking about?
She's talking about the one outside of Country Club, it's where Deer hits University, you got Deer on one side where, it was a pretty big topic of conversation multiple times on our dais. It was a little more locational in terms of people talk about it. But yeah, it's where ODA is on one side of the road and Country Club's on the other, where it intersected because there was so much traffic coming in through Sarasota. And SMR has both sides of the road. They're like, we'll do it on a public-private partnership because they effectively control both sides of the road, whereas we don't control the Sarasota side of the road. Yeah.
I wasn't going to do this early, but I will because it's. So Commissioner Kruse, Carol Cooper, the chairperson for the committee opposed to the roundabout, which was voted approved by the commissioners. I have several questions that need to go back to the commissioners, and I think this is a great forum for it. Number one, the agreement that Manatee County signed with Lakewood Ranch Corporate Park LLC, so nobody would even know who they were when it was put on consent. We already talked about that. The agreement states that Manatee County entered into the agreement because it states this on the signed agreement, that because the developer has a DRI which mandates that they increase the capacity of that intersection. Yet they're taking a 2-lane road into a 2-lane roundabout, which does nothing to increase capacity. Wasn't this false pretenses? And what are the grounds for cancellation? Step 2 of my question, the developer stated that it was Manatee County's idea to turn the intersection into a roundabout. A FOIA request was submitted by myself, and I received the answer back. And there were no documents, zero, zilch, nada. No documents about the roundabout between any of your public works or your Charlie Bishop, whatever his title is, or the commissioners. There were no documents, emails, or recordings discussing this changing from the CIP, which was for improvements at the intersection, to a roundabout. Yet, the developer said it was Manatee County who wanted that. So, whose idea was it, and where are the supporting documents? And the last part of that is Manatee County is responsible for the roadway. Not a developer, not a construction company, Manatee County is. And it's you who will be sued when somebody's injured at that intersection. And it's my tax money, and all of your tax money, presuming you're Manatee County residents, that will pay, because the commissioners aren't paying, I can assure you, for the damages awarded to the victims that are injured in that intersection. So, Manatee County is responsible for ADA compliance and safety of Manatee County roads. The responsibility cannot be delegated to a developer or to a construction company. We request that Manatee County have public planning meetings to disclose the plans to the public to ensure pedestrian safety, and if Manatee County is sued, we want to know what your plan is to defend us. Thank you.
Okay, I'm not gonna answer most of that, only because we've discussed this ad nauseum. I mean, you were in the meeting. Okay, Carol, you and I have spoken.
Yeah.
You've been to all of our meetings
Yeah.
pertaining to this. It was voted on by the board recently, I believe September, so like within the past 60 days. The board voted to continue moving forward with it. That vote was the vote of the board. Regardless of even my opinion, I'm still going to honor, and I always have honored, majority votes of a board. That was the decision of a board. You're bringing up things that were brought up, and they may be very valid.
It was 4-3. It was not a unanimous decision.
I didn't say, I did not, I most certainly did not say it was
It
unanimous.
was 4-3,
Okay.
and if you voted the other way, it would have been 4-3 for us.
That's correct. Right,
But you didn't, you voted with that.
correct. But I've also been on record
So-
as saying if I had my way, I would take out every single street light in this town and turn them all into roundabouts. So
Right. But
I
I'm
voted yes on every
defending-
roundabout.
I'm defending your right to make that decision.
Right.
I'm assuming you have some documentation or some information that supports what your decision is.
I know, but you asked these questions on the desk. I do not have this documentation because the Board of County Commissioners, because the Board of County Commissioners sets policy We've got a staff that does the operations. I was not involved in the operation. By state statute, I'm not going to be involved, so I do not have, you can do a public record request on every email I've ever received for 5 years, you will not find one because I'm not involved in the decision-making of a street light versus a roundabout at any point in time. I cannot speak to whether or not somebody else does or does not have documentation that you're claiming they do and they're just refusing to turn over. That's an accusation of somebody, but I can't.
It doesn't exist.
Then if it doesn't exist, it doesn't exist. I can't retroactively create it for you. I don't know what you want me to say. I'm telling you that this was a discussion of the board, and the board decided to continue moving forward with it. I listened to you, I listened to other people in Country Club, just like I listened to both sides of everyone when we had the same discussion about a lighter roundabout on Lorraine a couple of years ago. And it was the same thing, it was a back and forth of a close vote going each way when Commissioner Turner was the District 5 Commissioner. And that also was not a unanimous decision. In that case, it turned out to be a light instead of a roundabout, because we all listened to everybody. And that's what we can do, and all we can do is honor whatever the vote is. I understand the frustration that it's 4-3. A lot of things end up 4-3. Believe me, I was on the other side of it for 2 straight years.
Right, and I understand that, and I'm not disputing the fact that the commissioners have validly voted to move forward. I'm saying that there are other things now that are factors that you just can't delegate and say, sorry, it's not
I'm not
us.
saying we're gonna delegate it, but like I said, your questions pertaining to lawsuits and so forth, first off, I will die on that hill that a roundabout is 100% guaranteed, you cannot convince me otherwise, safer than a streetlight. 100%, I can show you every piece of information from people way smarter than me. Everything from DOT to engineers to you name it, the total number of fatalities in a roundabout versus a fatality of getting T-boned and people running through red lights on a street light is irrefutable by any documentation report I've ever seen. So if I'm going to get sued by somebody getting a fender bender going 15 miles an hour through a roundabout, I'll take that chance over getting sued for somebody's kid literally dying as they're leaving ODA because someone not paying attention blows a red light on University and sideswipes them as they're leaving high school. I will happily get sued over that fender bender all day, every day on that roundabout over the alternative.
Fender benders. My son, who is in auto body, says, build all your roundabouts. It's his best form of business in all of Florida, because there are more fender benders in a roundabout than anywhere else. That's fine.
I'll deal with
I'm
that.
talking, I know the fatality rate. I'm talking about pedestrians, the students from ODA crossing at that intersection.
Sure.
That are handicapped residents crossing in their wheelchairs at that intersection.
Okay.
And those do happen.
They do, 100%. Look, that will happen in this parking lot as you're walking back to your car. I mean, that could happen in a public shopping center. I can't avoid every instance of somebody just being a bad driver. That's not possible. The newer roundabouts, like I live in Greyhawk. We have a huge roundabout that's 4 lanes, directly in front of my neighborhood. It's the only way out. We have a Publix on the other side. People are spinning that thing all day long.
You have 5 exits. That's not the only way.
But that's okay, fair enough, that's the main way. I'm pretty sure Country Club has more than one. I'm pretty sure, I've been to Country Club, I'm pretty sure you have more than one. I believe you're probably close to 5 as well.
1,300 residents and we have 3,000.
Okay, but Carol, we are working on these, our newer roundabouts. Go look at Sarasota, they got roundabouts that are like a whole city block. But here's the thing, let me finish. As far as I'm aware, I could be wrong, but as far as I'm aware, and I get every newsletter, I'm on every website for Greyhawk, I cannot think of a single instance since that roundabout came in where a single person's got hit in that roundabout. I don't even mean car, I'm talking about a person. My daughter, when she couldn't drive, used to ride a bike with her friends through that roundabout. We've got lights that light up, you press it and the lights flash to make people stop. We've got the little bumpy thing so people that, for ADA, they understand they're coming up on it. Is it perfect? No, but more people get hit as a pedestrian when they got the little white guy flashing on the sign saying you're allowed to walk and someone makes a right turn because they're not paying attention and they don't see that person coming out in the crosswalk and they get hit by that car. More people get hit walking across the sidewalk or walking across a crosswalk in a lit intersection than they do going across a roundabout. And typically what they do, people are slowed down to virtually nothing going through the roundabout anyway. But I'm not gonna, but just in all sincerity though, I mean, we do have a room full of people. I will have this conversation with you. I will set up a whole separate time to have this. I'll happily debate roundabouts with you.
I'm not trying to debate it.
I know you're not. I know you're not, but I'm trying to balance. I really do want to be respectful of your question because you and I have spoken. You're very passionate about it. You've spent a lot of time coming into our chambers, and I appreciate that. But I also don't want to turn this into a 2-hour discussion on a roundabout in front of one neighborhood, because there is a lot of people here that may have other questions. If it's 7:15, 7:30, and everyone's out of questions, we could spend the last half hour talking.
All I ask is that you have somebody assigned in your office to get answers, that's all.
Sure, fair enough, fair enough. Any other non-roundabout related questions? You first, and then you.
Yes, I was just wondering if you could give us an update, and I think I have the number correct, on SB 180 and the counties and what they might be doing regarding that.
Sure.
And the reason is quite frankly, is Manatee County is growing, as we all know, crazy. And we keep hearing that there's a water shortage. Those two things don't make sense. But I'm just wondering where they may be. And regarding roundabouts, just make them wide enough. That's all. I mean, because trucks can't get through them.
Sure.
That's the main thing. So,
Okay. I asked for a non-roundabout related question. You snuck that in. You snuck that
That was a comment.
But to quickly answer your last one, there's two kinds of roundabouts we built. One is the traversing roundabout. That's what we're talking about here. That's what you see in front of Greyhawk and places like that. The other kind is more of a traffic calming. Those are the more narrow ones that trucks sometimes have more trouble with. But they're not really built because of congestion in an intersection. They're built because people are blowing down straight roads, especially out west for Aiden. Every road was built like a straight line grid. And so people drive way too fast on them. Like, you should never build a road that you could see more than like 50 feet in front of you, because the sight lines are what makes everyone drive too fast. That's why we're adding them to Boardenside, because the high school kids were drag racing out there, and MSO had to go out there every single night for the drag race. So now we're adding roundabouts just to stop that. So there's two reasons for the roundabouts. The smaller ones are typically for the traffic calming. Going back to Senate Bill 180, I think I've probably been the most outspoken person on this in the state. So if you didn't get any appropriations from the governor last year, sorry. For anyone who doesn't know, Senate Bill 180 from last year was an otherwise good bill all the way through session. It was called emergencies, and it was run by a senator out of Pinellas. The idea of it was they wanted to make sure that all municipalities had evacuation zones listed on their website, and that you told people where sandbags were, and that if your house got damaged during a storm, your city or your county couldn't jack up permitting fees just to extort money from you when you're in a time of need. Couldn't increase impact fees on a house that already existed when there shouldn't be impact fees on it because you're just rebuilding what was just there. It was a very good bill. At the last minute, they'll claim it wasn't last minute because the language is in the House version, but last minute on the Senate version they actually got voted on. Some language was inserted that effectively is being implied to take over all growth management rights for all cities and counties in the state of Florida. It basically says until late 2027, possibly longer because there's triggers that can extend it, we can't pass any rules or regulations that are more burdensome on development. So when this new board got voted in and we finally moved forward to put the wetland buffers back, the state said you're not allowed to do that because of Senate Bill 180. But this new board got voted in and we went to remove policy 2128, which would protect the future development boundary. The state said, no, you're not allowed to do that because of Senate Bill 180. When we went and voted to increase impact fees on developers so we can collect the money to build all these roundabouts all of you are clamoring for, we were told we can't do that because of Senate Bill 180. In fact, we're being sued on that one. So where this stands now is session's about to start. They're in committee weeks right now. I've spoken to a lot of the legislators up at Tallahassee. Many other people have as well. I've proposed some clean, simple fixes for it. The people in Tallahassee are implying it's being misinterpreted by the agencies. They're implying this wasn't the intent of the language. So I'm like, okay, well, if that's true, then fix it. It's an easy fix. All you have to do is define property, because right now it's being so vaguely interpreted as property as land that has future development, which that's not the intent of the bill. Just define it as property existed prior to the emergency. That's fixed. Easy fix. We are one of the two counties, along with 25 cities, that joined a lawsuit against the state And it's not because we want to sue the state, it's because we have things we want to do now. So we were hoping, we are still hoping, but I can't speak too much about it because it is a lawsuit. We're hoping that it would allow for a judge to put a stay on it and basically at least push Senate Bill 180 aside until the legislatures can clarify what their intent was. So we can still move forward with the impact fees and the wetland buffers and so forth. That's the reason we joined it. We're still hopeful that during session, they just do a glitch fix. They put a new bill out there that modifies some of the language to be what they imply it's supposed to be. So that's where it stands now. They finished 3 of the 6 weeks of committee weeks so far. There's 3 left. No bill's been filed to fix it yet. The closest thing is one senator filed a bill that just removed his county and one other county from it. He narrowed it, so it took out, he's way out by Pensacola, so it kind of narrowed, took out Miami, took out like Pensacola, Escambia, Santa Rosa County. Everything else is the same. So we'll see if a new bill gets filed. Hopefully it will. I'm being told something is supposed to get filed to try to fix it.
So we should push it.
This is the time. I mean, there's only so many weeks to file bills, and right now they're in committee week. They're already starting to run bills through committees right now. It's not a deadline. I mean, they don't have to file bills till January technically, but a lot of the bills have been getting filed. So now's the time. If you're around here, reach out to Representative Connerly, reach out to if you're down here, reach out to Senator Boyd or Senator Reuters, depending on where you live. This is kind of the tweener area. If you live further out west, reach out to Rep. Robinson, up north, Rep. Owen. They're your delegates here, and at least tell them you're interested in seeing that fixed. The more people that kind of say it. But again, I've talked to all of them, and all of them imply it's being misinterpreted. So until I see otherwise, I'm going to take them at their word that they believe it's being misinterpreted and that their votes were honest and sincere. But now we need it fixed.
Thank you.
Did you have a middle question?
Do I have more?
No, I thought you had another question.
Oh, I do have another question.
Well, if it's a new question, I'm gonna go over here, or ahead. I thought you had asked multiple
I'm
questions.
sorry, well, if I may, I'll wait.
Somebody else will have.
Well, this is because somebody's hand.
She's had her hand up
I
for
know.
a long time.
From what I'm hearing, this is the first time I'm ever at a meeting like this, so I'm not that savvy as some of the people are. One of your major concerns is safety. One of my major concerns is safety of our children. And I live near White Eagle and 44th, which is a major intersection. We have 2 schools there, Mona Jane and Gullet Elementary. And there's been a proposal to build a 24-hour convenience gas station right on the intersection, right across the street from Mona Jane Middle School. That is a safety issue. That's going to increase traffic. We're going to have kids crossing, going to school, coming. If you go now, there's cars lined up all the time. You're going to have cars passing all the parents. It's a major safety issue. There's other issues, the value of our property. It's being put in the middle of a beautiful community of homes. A gas station doesn't belong there, but I'm talking about the safety of our children. That property is 368 feet from Mona Jane Elementary. Those are middle school kids who can easily cross over. They're going to be selling cigarettes, beer, vaping stuff. I have 2 kids in their 30s. I know when they were in middle school and high school how they got a hold of that stuff. They hung out at convenience stores and paid people and bought it for them. We're obviously, you see a lot of red shirts. We're very concerned about the safety, not just our community, but the safety of our children, and having something like that right in the middle of our community in front of 2 schools.
Okay. What's that?
How do you plan to proceed?
I have no
Are you
idea,
gonna
because
help us?
you guys are so far, first off, I've gotten about 5,000 emails about this. So,
There'll be 5,000 more when the application is filed.
but it's not, so that's why I can't even speak to it. So there's nothing to speak to. You guys pulled something off of some project list. That's the thing, project lists are great if you're just thinking about looking to see what someone's maybe hypothetically talking about doing. Hear me out. There's nothing coming in front of my board. There's nothing that I've seen. The extent of my knowledge that there may be some gas station even being proposed is entirely 100% based upon the emails I've received from Central Park. Like 100%. There's been no developer who's come in and said, this is my thought. There's been no staff that's come into my office and said, let's talk about it. This board has never approved it. But what you're talking about is a parcel of land that's part of a DRI that was approved. I'm the longest serving person here. That land was rezoned way before my time.
It was
2023,
rezoned
right,
and
Suzanne? 2007.
2007. So, it's 2020.
DRI's been changed about 15 times.
That's fine, DRIs change all the time. I mean, that's what DRIs are for, that's why there's DRIs. DRIs, just so everyone knows, DRIs are developments of regional impact. They were created a long time ago by the state because people had massive parcels of land. Terra is a DRI. Artisan Lakes is a DRI. Lakewood Ranch is a DRI. Heritage Harbor is a DRI. Because people had this huge parcels of land, they're like, this is gonna take 20, 30, 50 years to build out. I don't know what people are gonna want 50 years from now. I can't even think about what someone's gonna want 50 years from now. So the state created these DRIs that were significant enough developments that they had a regional impact. And when they got approved, you were given this whole list of things saying, I'm going to be able to build up to 5,000 houses and 800,000 square feet of commercial, this, that, and the other. This is the kind of commercial I built. And they all had an equivalency matrix. So as the time went on, if you're like, okay, people don't need housing anymore, I could trade one house for 5,000 square feet of commercial, and it's a whole table. And the stewardship district for Lakewood Ranch has multiple DRIs, and each one's its own thing. So they do change all the time because they were made that way, that on purpose. That's not a bug, it's a feature. Like, that's why DRIs existed. You don't see them anymore because they're not really used as much anymore, but back in the day they were. So I can't speak to this. I understand the concern, but until I see anything, I can't. It wouldn't be fair to anybody for me just to blindly, I'm not gonna pander to people and just be like, 100% no, I don't know. I don't know anything about this, other than your emails. And they're persuasive. I've read a handful, they're all the same. But I've read enough of them to know, and I've followed to see how many people have come through. My daughter went to Mona Jane. I know the intersection extremely well. She doesn't anymore, but she did back in the day go to Mona Jane. I live obviously in Greyhawk, not far from there. I take White Eagle. I took White Eagle here. I drove through that intersection to get here. I know that area extremely well, but I have a hard time fully understanding because you can't even sell cigarettes and alcohol that close to a school. And that's not your opinion, that's state law. So the assumption that they're gonna put some Bucky's there, and all of a sudden they're gonna start selling kegs of beer out the back 300 feet from a school, they can't by law do that. And we can't even as a board of county commissioners deviate from that law. That's a state law, that there's distances from schools that you can sell tobacco products and alcohol products. So if it truly is as close as you're saying it is, and I have no reason to believe it's not, they can't do what you're saying that you think they want to do. And because no developer has come to me and said, this is my plan, because nobody in staff came to me and said, here's a rendering of a rough site plan for a gas station, I have no information. Once I have more information, I will happily have this conversation, but I just don't. Like I said at the start, I will answer every question I can to the extent I can. I have no information other than your emails. I didn't know this gas station existed until the email started.
Back in August, I lived there, so I'm always passing that intersection. There was a for sale sign, and then all of a sudden there was a sticker across it that said retail.
Okay.
I called the listing agents, the two agents. They were the ones who told me that the proposed buyer was going to put a gas station convenience store there. That was the actual.
Okay,
So I'm assuming that it's their client. They're obviously looking to make their commission on it. And then a few weeks later, when we started to get involved, that sticker was gone, the retail sticker.
Okay,
So
that's even less. Look, you're saying you called a broker who told you what their person. Not to knock the broker. Not to knock the broker out, because I know the broker is a nice guy. He's the same guy who was in the process of selling that corner, that triangle piece at 675 and State Road 70, that came in front of this board 3 times for a gas station. And all 3 times it got declined, and it's still a grass triangle. Same broker. And he insisted they were buying it and they were putting it in a gas station. So just because a broker says they have a client who's thinking about doing something, let's not forget, about 12 months ago, I got the same number of thousands of emails about some mythical Home Depot that was going in. That literally never existed in real life. Somebody pulled a list from some Home Depot thing where they listed 8 potential sites that was solely based on, give me a list of all the vacant lots that are of a certain size, close to a certain number of houses, and that parcel was one of the things on that list. They had no intention of buying that land. It was just on a list of potential things that hypothetically could hold a Home Depot. Yet everybody jumped up and down on it. But let's not worry about things until we need to worry about things. If they have to pass a site plan that doesn't conform to the DRI or existing approvals, then they have to come in front of the board, they have to go in front of the staff, and all that information will be public record, and then we can have much more meaningful conversations about it. Right now, I can't. I just can't have a conversation because it doesn't exist right now. It's a hypothetical.
Just hypothetically, taking what she has just opened the door for, who ensures that everything meets the DRI specifications through all the iterations? If a project, well, let me back up real quick. There has been a pre-application for that gas station.
Okay.
And there has been a zoning verification, and the zoning has been verified.
Okay.
So those two things we know have been, they're not just blue sky, they're factual.
Sure.
So who ensures that everything meets DRI specifications that are laid out very clearly? When do we know if something has not been put into a cella? Can something, a project be opened or something start and the public not have access to the information in a cella? And if that is the case, so the project can start, we don't have, it's not in a cella, but you guys, somebody in Manatee County has it, how do we get that information? How do we know to request that information if it's not in the system? And number three, a parcel of land, a strip of land adjacent to a road, if it does not designate that it's a Manatee County piece of road, how do we find who owns that? First question, DRI.
Sure, the strip, well, DRI clarifications are pretty straightforward. DRI is, again, you can do it with Excel. It basically, a DRI will say you can build X amount of homes, X amount of retail, X amount of whatever, and then it will have acceptable uses and it'll have its excluded uses. So in some DRIs.
Design specifications and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think you're overthinking a DRI.
No, they're documented.
Sure.
It has to, or it cannot have this, or it must have that.
Yes, because when you approve the DRI, it'll say, here's what your setbacks are, here's what things like that. But that goes with every project we have, whether it's a DRI or otherwise. So you're asking me specific about DRI. The portion that says you have to have 20-foot setbacks for all the houses in this DRI, and you have to have minimum widths of roadways and X amount of stuff. We do that for every project. That's not DRI specific. And that's our internal staff who does that. Within the DRI, the bigger thing is, here's what you're allowed to build, here's what's left. And we just keep track of it. It'll say, okay, you're allowed to build 5,000 homes. After all these subdivisions, you built 4,800 homes. That way you only have 200 left. If you come in front of us and want to build a 300 home subdivision, you don't have the capacity. But hey, you've only built 100,000 square feet of commercial, and with this trade-off, you could trade 200,000 square feet of that and get that other 100 houses. That's internal staff.
Okay, so somebody will look at the DRI
Yes.
specifications against the site plan and say, it says this, therefore.
100%. In fact, if you go look at, I think the last time we changed a DRI was maybe Heritage Harbor, because they were doing something with a hotel. that was already approved, but they're like adding a floor with some rooms and changing it. If you look at that, I don't remember when it was during this calendar year, because the new board. If you go look at that staff report, there's literally a table in that staff report that says, this is what they were allowed to build, this is what they have built, this is what's left, this is what they want to do with it now, here's the matrix that shows what they're removing to trade it. That's all of the staff report.
Can they take, I'm sorry, I have one question for that.
Go ahead.
Can they take park space and completely remove it?
That's a little bit different question. We had this discussion years ago. I was the only person left on the board, with Savannah, actually. Because they had green space that designated in their site plan open space. They defined it. So that became a more difficult question. Could they do it? If it's park space, meaning
It was
it's just
park
available,
space
like,
in the DRI.
that's fine. But I mean, there's a difference between park space because they just haven't built it yet. So they're like, yeah, let's make it green space and let people walk their dogs. Or if it's a park space, meaning they defined it in a site plan. And then when they went and sold houses someplace, they specifically said, this is a park. Then somebody could reasonably assume that that's going to remain a park if they bought their house there. If it was just a vacant lot, like in my neighborhood, there's still a few lots, surprisingly, that haven't had homes built on them. Kids play on them. My kids used to play on them. At no point in time could I misinterpret that as a park, and therefore nobody could ever build a house on it ever again, just because it was vacant for a window of time and utilized for recreation purpose. That's why I'm saying, if it's defined as a park, like if you went out to the baseball field out there on White Eagle and said, I'm putting a hotel here, no, you're not. That's defined as a park, and everyone who bought homes could reasonably expect that to remain a park. If it's a random parcel of land on a corner because no one got around to building it, that's not necessarily a park per se. So it really depends on how it was defined in the marketing and how it was labeled, because you can call it open space, you can call it conservation, you can call it a number of things. You also have to have a certain minimum amount of open space in any development. So if that park was the last few feet required for the absolute minimum amount of open space that was promised in the DRI, then you also couldn't build on it because it would violate the open space covenant.
Okay, we'll deal with that one when the time
Sure.
comes. So the
I know that
other
got
two-
very granular, I apologize, but I was trying to answer your question.
No,
as
no,
best I could.
no, that was great. And I would go more granular, but it's not necessary until it's necessary.
Correct.
So when does a project get in the system, and how could we be informed of something specifically, this particular parcel, if it's not in the system? Because I check the system 3 times a day, looking for the application.
That's a lot.
It is. We will be the first to know. I just want to make sure that it will be in the system, and if it isn't in the system and I'm calling development services and I'm not getting phone calls answered,
Sure.
how do I find
Let me
out?
try to save you a little time. Make sure Dana back there has your contact information.
Okay.
And tomorrow I will get in touch with development services, find out the exact status of it in
Okay.
anticipation of when it should get to the next level, and I will personally let you know. So you
Okay.
can take a break from checking 3 times.
She loves
It's
it.
just part of my,
I get it, I
Buy
get
into
it.
the
But
system.
I can get you a much more specific timeline in terms of anticipated time, and that way you'll.
that would be
know.
fabulous.
So just make sure Dana has your contact
Okay.
information, and I'll find out tomorrow.
Okay, and the last question, the last question was on the,
Yeah, okay, the strip. There's 2 different ways. One, you'll see, sometimes you see with their name on it. Usually you do not, because we don't really like just to own stuff. Usually, especially when you get to bigger developments, like Lakewood Ranch, for instance, other places, what we do is we basically have them pledge right of way. So that effectively is almost kind of owned by nobody, but it's also owned by everyone at the same time. So that's still going to be under some ownership, for lack of a better term, with the stewardship district with SMR, but we have a right to it. We can basically absorb that right of way to widen roads, build sidewalks, do whatever it is. We in fact just dealt with this 2 meetings ago, because we had a right of way off of 64 close to Morgan Johnson. It wasn't listed as Manatee County. It wasn't listed as anyone. If you clicked on it on the GIS,
The road,
it
the
didn't show
road
up.
doesn't even say Manatee
Correct,
County.
it says nothing, because it's effectively not allowed to be built by anybody. It's just there, it's not on the tax rolls, no one's paying for it, but we don't own it. It's just sitting there, and depending on the development agreement, the land development agreement may have said, if and when we're ready to use it, we're gonna pay the theoretical owner of it X amount of money. It was pre-negotiated forever ago. But they're not allowed to build on it. They basically have to keep it like that in a perpetuity, or at least until to the end of the contract period, so that when we want to build a stormwater pond, or when we want to widen a road, or build a sidewalk, or put in utilities, there's any number of reasons we do this. If it's a strip along a road, it's most likely a right-of-way for the sake of either widening a road, or if it's the case of that corner, then what it probably was somebody probably said, hey, if this gets really busy once 44th connects, we may want to have a dedicated right turn lane. And
There is a
so,
right turn lane.
a dedicated?
But there's also a little jag
Yeah,
in the,
sure. But usually, to answer your question, that's usually what it is. Nobody really owns, it's a right-of-way that's just kind of floating out there that the county can use for the sake of a right-of-way. We don't have a right to sell it, we don't have a right to do anything with it, we can't even sell it by state statute.
but it would be
We
the
can give it back.
county's.
We can vacate it back to the owner, but that's all we can do with it.
Okay.
Or we can
If
utilize
you
it.
vacate it back to the owner, how would we know that before that?
That would have to come in front of the Board of County Commissioners to vacate it.
Land use meeting?
No, it would just go anywhere. I mean, it's one of those ones that can go in front of either, and that's why I hate having defined
Okay,
land
but it
use
would be
meetings.
on the agenda.
Yes, 100%. It would have.
Something like that, would it be on the consent agenda, or would it be in?
Nowadays, it seems like nothing's on consent agenda. The last one we did was not, because we had to formally vacate, it has to be noticed, so I'm pretty sure they would all have to be off.
Okay.
Typically, they're on presentation upon request, because
Okay.
I can think of only one, well, now two times where we've ever had a meaningful discussion on vacating. One was because it was near a school, and we were vacating an alley, and people said their kids walked through that alley to get to school, but the people who own the alley are like, people are gonna trip and we're gonna get sued over this thing, so that had a real conversation, and then there's one on 64 at a real conversation. Otherwise, typically, they're not a big deal, but it does in fact have to be on agenda.
Okay,
We can't just do that behind the scenes.
okay, I'll let somebody else ask a question.
I'd like to ask a question about those two schools that are at Route 44 and White Eagle. So the parents are lining up along that road on 44 to get into the elementary and middle school. And now that 44 is open, there's more traffic. I've noticed that the school that's down 44, the prep school, they have a means where the parents can
Yes.
line up their cars in between the two schools. And so my question is, has Manatee County given any thought to put some extended parking or routing the parents so they can get them off of 44? Because I see it getting worse and worse as the traffic is picking up on 44.
And we can't get out of our.
I agree with you. Here's the problem. I've got another group here in Manatee County, the school board, they get more tax money than I do. That's a school board responsibility. That has nothing to do with us. The school board's responsible for capture. The school board is not supposed to necessarily allow that. The school, they're supposed to be able to build their parking lots and build their drop off and pickup to avoid traffic congestion like that. That's not a Manatee County
So
thing.
should we send emails
Yep,
to the school?
100%. Call Chad Cho. I'll give you his number. Kidding. I'm good friends with all the school board members, like actually friends with them.
Well, it's getting worse.
But no, it is. Like even when my daughter's a junior at Lakewood Ranch now, she was at Mona Jane for all 3 years. And even then, people would park along White Eagle on the side. That was before the apartments came in, and all the kids would come across the field to like their parents' cars. It's been bad for a while. It's a poorly designed layout.
I have an idea, private-public partnership
There you go.
for that lot, and we could put a,
Again,
you go talk with Pat Neal.
Again, it is a school board thing. It is a school board thing. No, but it is. I'm not trying to kick the can. It just truly is. Like, we'll help on occasion if it's something that the county can do to help facilitate something. Like, as an example, they were running into some issues up at Parish High School they got plenty of room for pickup and drop off, but they're having issues with people getting in off of the Fort Hammer side. So we use some of our excess right away to put a slip lane in to help the school, and that helped them tremendously. We've also helped them in terms of timing lights and stuff. So we have a very good relationship to work with the school, but we do not control the school board or their drop-off pickup in any way, shape, or form. So if that's an issue, then you need to, I'm not joking. I mean, that's something that you could certainly bring up with the school.
Is it under Manatee County to send police officers out there to facilitate traffic?
They are.
Because what's happening is people are lining up in that right lane and they're sitting and the light is turning and they just sit because when they go through the intersection, of course, there's cars to get in. So you try to come out of the neighborhood
We can't get 'em
and
in.
you're going into the left lane and you're cutting in front of them right to go, and it's, so I'm thinking if nothing else, if police can say, no, you can't just park in the lane.
Sure. I mean, I
I know
can,
where they would go.
You can't just park there.
I'm no narc. I mean, we could, but so could the school board.
Okay.
The MSO is an independent constitutional officer, they control themselves. So the school board, if they believe they were causing problems, could reach out to the deputies and request some assistance as much as we could. I mean, neither of us have more power, quote unquote, over requesting deputies than the other, so that would still be the way to go about it.
Okay, so I'm new to this. Before I
Oh,
go-
you can go, I have already pointed out.
Well, I just have a general, because I'm very new to this. My comment is, we have so many people living here in this county. I come from the IT environment, and usually meetings like this, we have them using team meetings or any electronics, so there's way more people that can listen. You providing a lot of good information. And yet I go on Mayaka 411, that's where I live, and all these other groups, and I have a lot of people criticizing you, giving you bad comments,
That's why I'm
all
on
kinds
those
of.
pages.
Yeah, you see, that's what I'm saying, and I think changing the format of this, it will be very useful, because I think a lot of people, they have kids, they not necessarily can come in at 6 for 2 hours meeting into library, and we have a very limited representation of Montgomery County, and it's all order folks like myself. I'm semi-retired, so I have so little extra time. So my proposal would be to have the meetings, have them more often, and have them using team meetings. So you can have 400, 500 people.
Sure, I mean, I'll take it into consideration, just to let you know.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Let me finish. So I went and November 6th, we had the meetings, I was there, and that was my first time. And I reached out to Mayaka folks, but because we had a really serious issues there, and it's only 10 people. I was expecting 40, 50. And then I reach out to them and they say, well, they do it on purpose, so they know we work. There are the lawyers, they're getting paid. We spend the whole day, nobody really like a second-class citizens feel like we had to go pay for our lunches. Then we had our few minutes to say something. And so having everything using team meetings, be more available, and more, so people can get to know you better, and they different when they not sitting like we are now. They more sincere, they will give you a lot of information. I'm serious. Go on Mayaka 411, and as I say, I'm new to this. We should use the latest technology that is available and is free to conduct meetings like this. That's my proposal. One more thing I wanted to say. Being November 6th, we spent all day there. From 9 a.m. we were swear this didn't finish until 5 p.m. We should at least get reimbursed for our lunch. That's kind of, I'm thinking, like lawyers are there, they get paid thousands of dollars, you guys get your.
You don't pay the thousands of dollars with your tax money.
No,
Yeah,
but we've been sitting there all day, everyone was trying to prepare, and then comments were made, well, why don't they make this online, and we can raise the hand, we can.
It is online, so those comments are factually incorrect.
Yeah, and then we can chip in. The lady says, no, I cannot come in, I would love to, I have kids, and things like that. So that's what my comments are, that these things need to change.
Okay, fair enough. I'll answer. One, say just do more of these. I've done more town halls in the past 3 years than every other commissioner combined in the past 10. So I do a lot of them. I do them in every single library in the entire county. So I'm every place, giving everyone an opportunity. Years ago, I tried doing these with Zoom, and they were terrible. First off, the thought that hundreds of people were gonna log on is factually great. There was like 6 people, and everyone tried to talk over each other. So I spent half my time trying to mute people, and then people got mad I was muting them because they were all talking over each other. And I was just sitting in a room. There was no personal anything to it.
Yeah.
Here, I've done these where it's been, like I had to have like the door shut at Rocky Bluff one time because the fire marshal, because so many people show up. This is an opportunity where I can actually see you face to face and talk to you and get contact information from you. So that's why I do it this way, because it gives the ability to have direct interaction back and forth, not sitting behind a screen while I'm on my couch at my house. So I have tried it that way. It wasn't overly successful. As for the meetings, I'm not sure where you're going with it. We do have them all online. They are. Up until a few years ago, the board, the previous board, refused to allow call-in comments. In fact, they took them away. We put them back. So now, unless it's quasi-judicial, which are certain parts of the land use, anybody watching live, which we now also put them on Facebook, and they're on YouTube, you can watch it live, and you can call in on Zoom, and you can talk from home, or from work, or from wherever it is you are, or from your car waiting in line on White Eagle and 44th Street. You can do that. You cannot do it during quasi-judicial hearings for land use by state statute. That is not ours.
I'm sorry,
What's that?
could you define quasi-judicial?
Sure. When you get to land use, there's 2 types of hearings. There's legislative hearings and there's quasi-judicial. Quasi-judicial, effectively, for lack of a better term, means it's sort of like a court hearing where we're effectively the 7 judges. So because of that, everybody who speaks has to be sworn in, just like if you were in court. And so the state does not allow call-in comments for quasi-judicial because we can't verify the person saying who they are is the person that's saying who they are. And if they make any comments that we rely upon to make a decision, then we could be effectively sued in court saying you voted no because that person said that, but we don't know that person was who they said they were. We don't know if they were sworn in and they were telling the truth. So the state said we can't do that. So those are the 2 differences of those 2. Quasi-judicial is if we're making a rezone change. Basically, any meaningful thing on land use is more times than not going to be quasi-judicial. It's legislative if it's a basic resolution of something, a first hearing on something. There are a few scenarios where it's legislative. But even when we did the change of zoning for our own park here at Premier last meeting, that was still quasi-judicial in nature. So they can't call in on those. We're not permitted to allow for that. So people, if they want to speak, have to sit there all day. We can't do them after hours for convenience, because to your point, you got there at 9 in the morning and you were sat there till 5. That was 8 hours. If we would have started that meeting at 5 p.m. to allow people to get off work first, we would have been sitting there until like 1 o'clock in the morning. And so that's not feasible. If you can convince my board to start having efficient meetings, we can have this conversation. But if we're gonna sit there for 8, 10 hours, we had a meeting earlier this year that started at 9 a.m. and finished at 11:45. So we don't have the ability. Some cities do after hours meetings, but that's because their meetings only last 60, 90 minutes. That's easier to do.
I appreciate your explanation, but I don't think that solved the situation that only few people showing up in those meetings. You have millions of people living here.
Oh, what 450,000 people? Don't tell me we're millions of people living here. I'm gonna get more emails.
Yeah. No, seriously. I even this meeting, I was expecting way more people here, and I'm with you. Face to face is better than not to face, but it should be some type of a camera. You're looking at the laptop, and people logging in, and then
I appreciate what I do about other cards. But these are not part of my job. I have no obligation. In fact, other than Commissioner Phelps, I can't really remember the last time any commissioner did a town hall. So I appreciate it, but I try to get out and speak to people as much as I can. I prefer to look at you in the face and talk to you sitting up here, not sitting on Zoom, not playing on my computer the whole time, trying to like follow who's on Zoom and who's
You
not.
can have this lady doing this for you.
She's a freelancer.
Yeah. So, okay.
So
Next question is.
I do have two other people with their hand raised, so is it a related question?
That
Because
is
you've
a
already asked
trash.
three.
No, it's a trash. Next question is a trash. So regarding the trash, I went and looked it up on the game form area where
Hold on, I want to ask you respectfully just to hold that question, because that's a completely different question, and other people do have their hands raised, I can't run through like
Okay.
all of your questions, but I'll get back to you. Love to talk about trash.
I do have two questions.
Are they about trash?
Hopefully it'll be quick.
Okay.
I emailed you, you emailed back, you were very quick, about the drains or the grates on the.
They're fixed. Oh, dude, I was gonna message you yesterday or the day before, because I drove back across 44th and all the cones are gone.
Oh,
Because
okay.
yes.
Tell me they fixed it.
Yes.
Okay, because
Yes.
it's been a couple weeks since I've been there.
Yes, like literally as soon as, I think you Facebook messaged me, I reached out to Chad and we went out that night and put the cones up.
Yeah,
Cause I'm like, someone's gonna
yeah.
get into an accident and then it's all
That
up.
was
And, like,
bad.
people don't want us getting sued. So we put the cones up immediately.
Yes.
And I
And it's
asked him a
been
couple
great.
weeks ago, are we just gonna leave the cones up? Is there a
Right.
solution?
Yeah.
We put these like metal strips and like bolted them over the things, and I literally, I wish I would have messaged you, that was so tough. Like this week, a couple of days ago, like yesterday before, I drove across the bridge and all the cones were gone. I was so happy, and I was going to message you back to tell you it's fixed. It
Thank
is
you.
fixed. Yeah.
Perfect, because, I rode 2 weeks ago and the cones were still there.
Yeah,
I'm
they're
like,
gone.
Okay,
They're
excellent.
gone.
So my second question is, I was volunteering at the Nixon Farms, the passing of the key, and I saw their proposal plan on there has an animal sanctuary. There was an animal sanctuary on the property. They got booted because no one could figure out what was gonna happen. So with all the development that's happening, regardless of what you wanna, say if it's smart development or not smart development, it's definitely having a negative impact on our wildlife. There's no debate about that. And right now, if we have an injured animal, we have to either take it to Venice, or now that they're open, Anna Maria again. So I'm really hoping you're gonna say this is not going to be some sort of, cute petting farm, and it's
No.
actually gonna help our community, help our wildlife.
I can't speak to the final plan, but
Okay.
I can tell you there is discussion of Wildlife Inc. about it. So,
Okay, good.
That's as far as I can have that conversation, because
Okay.
that's a private nonprofit.
Right, yes.
But there is discussion
Excellent.
about that.
All right,
And
so
there's
it's-
also discussion with the Friends of the Pelicans
Yeah.
about utilizing our Palmetto shelter once that gets closed, at least for our use, which is December 17th, is the ribbon cutting for the new expansion of Bishop, which will be the culmination of moving all of the dogs out of Palmetto once and for all.
Excellent.
And we're talking to the Pelican people because it's close to Skyway, it's convenient for them.
Yeah.
But we are having talks. I was out at Wildlife Inc. at least once a week during the storms, checking on them and making sure all the animals got out of there. I can remember the first time I went there, I was pulling up, and, because my cousin used to volunteer there, and someone was biking past me with some huge duck in a basket. I'm like, oh, in the right place. But they are reopened. It
Yes.
was never a convenient place for it anyway. I mean,
Right.
you've been there, right? I mean, it's
Yep.
all crammed in, the backyards, all the little cages.
Yeah.
We are having conversations with them about possibly whether it's Mixon's or a portion of Bishop or something else about helping that expand so we have a more permanent location.
That would be amazing. It
But I
just-
can't speak, but that's a preliminary thing, but it has been a conversation.
Perfect, all right, thank you.
Great.
Just curious, the county reserves are 900 million?
Sure.
Well, that's, what are the county reserves, if not that?
Well, I mean, it depends on what your term is for reserve. Our cash holdings I don't remember the exact number, but if you told me it was 900 million, I would say you're wrong. First off, we invest all that money, so we make good money. But the fallacy in people's arguments about that, especially people from Tallahassee that come down here for campaign stops, to say that we're misusing money, is like, we just took out a bond for like $140 million because of the storm. That money's part of that $900 million. It's not like I have $900 extra million. Like, what am I gonna do with this money? That's from a bond that was sold. We have that money, there's a time to do it. We collect impact fees, and those impact fees are going to things like widening Moccasin Wallow and working on sidewalks and things. Well, we collect the impact fees today, we don't spend them tomorrow. You can't build 4 feet of a road. I mean, you have to collect that money. I mean, it costs us $200 million to build 44th. At one point in time, we had a substantial amount of money in reserves as we were waiting to get the flyover approval for a bridge. We couldn't just say, oh, let's spend it on something else for now and we'll come up with it again. So there's big buckets of money. We get over $30 million a year in tourist development taxes. And those take time to cycle back out the back door. Those reserves are inclusive of the appropriations we get, and we hold all the reserves and appropriations for like the sheriff and everybody else. They're part of that reserve bucket. More importantly, or more substantially, we had $100 million of that, 900, for the parking garage downtown, which is dangerously close to possible. I think it was like 97 million. That's over 10% of the number you're saying, was just cash, because once we said we're gonna build that, we needed that money to do it, so we had to put that money in. Now we're trying to come up with, we have a ITN out to try to get a developer to do it for us in exchange for the air rights in downtown Bradenton, so we don't have to spend that money, but that's cash we're holding. We were holding $60-something million for a future landfill, because we have to buy that land at some point in time. So yes, it's a large number of reserves, but some people try to misinterpret reserves as being fungible money that we just overcharged in some way, shape, or form, and now we're sitting on this big bucket of money. Like, one guy keeps coming up saying that we should stop charging property taxes for 2 years because we have 2 years worth of property tax. Like, we don't have 2 years worth of property taxes. This money includes the expansion of Lake Manatee for our water. Someone mentioned drinking water capacity. That's $190-something million.
So you're comfortable, in other words, you're comfortable with all those levels? You feel they're.
Our reserves associated with general funds, the money that is fungible, that we could spend on anything from expanding a library to cutting your taxes to providing services, is it was in the 80s, now I think it was up to $107 million, which equates to, on an operational standpoint, about 20% of our operating budget. So if there was a storm or something happened where we couldn't collect your taxes or we needed to self-fund something, it would cover about 60 days worth of operation. And then we would be out of money. And as an example, we had an $8 million impact to our taxes last year, and we're gonna have more this year, because if a storm hits and your home becomes unlivable, then you do not have to pay proportional real estate taxes for that window of time. So that's one of the problems some of the island cities are having right now, because they lost virtually all of their property taxes for October through December, and for many of them, they're still not living in there. They're taking a huge tax base hit right now, just waiving the taxes associated with that. If we had a major storm that hit big chunks and valuable chunks of Manatee County for an extended period of time, that's what those reserves are for.
So I want to start with, this is the first time I've been to one of these meetings. Thank you for doing these. I do wish the other commissioners would do them as well for the other districts. I also want to make a plug for doing the Citizen Ambassador Program, where you can learn more about how the money, that $900 million, is distributed into reserve funds for capital projects, etc. So I learned a lot about that in that program.
Were you in the first year or second year?
The second.
So the one that just finished a few months ago?
Yeah, we finished in July, and they're offering this in a variety of different options. But I've lived in several states and a big city, Philadelphia, and this is the first county that I've lived in where I've seen, with the election of this board, a reach out to the citizens. So I appreciate that. So now, and I will tell you, my granddog likes the traffic circle at Whitfield and Tuttle, which is the straight line thing. Okay, he hopes that when he dies, you'll put a statue of him in the middle of it, because he thinks you built it for him. So, but I want to bring up some land use follow-up questions from land use meetings that I participated in, and my neighbors just left. that also participated in those meetings. So some of the discussion from, attending online or in person has been related to the aging stormwater data being 20 years old. Who actually initiates the new stormwater study? Is that state or county? So that's the first part of the question. And then during another land use meeting that had nothing to do with anywhere where I live, somewhere, Buckeye Road was mentioned, so I'm assuming it's a parish thing. You were concerned about road classifications, like C, classification C. I don't understand it. Yeah, and you said you wanted the board to do a workshop on road classification. Does that sound familiar?
I remember what you're referring to. I wasn't
Okay.
concerned, but I do remember what you're referring to, so I guess.
Because there was debate amongst the commissioners as to how that played a role, but I don't know enough about it. So
Sure.
I'm just saying, I'm an evidence person.
Yeah.
So those two first, and then I've got a follow-up related to infill.
Okay. The first part, relative to stormwater. Most of the maps we do ourselves. Some of them are FEMA related, so they're not us, they're federal, like the slosh maps and things like that to kind of show like where storm inundations can go and so forth. When it comes to the engineering type maps that people use relative to development for engineering purposes, if you build something, you're supposed to capture 150% of the water runoff from what it is presently. So there's always this question, do you use a 100-year storm because that seems to happen every year now? Or you use a 50-year storm, do you use NOAA 14, NOAA 15, NOAA 12? None of these things overly matter, other than the fact that the higher up, when you get to 14, you get to 15, it's a little bit more restrictive, requires extra engineering, which costs extra money and takes up extra land, so people prefer not to do it. This board has been pushing pretty hard to get people, until those maps get updated, to use best practices. So we've had some developers now coming in proposing building using 50-year instead of the old 100. We just had a project come in voluntarily going from NOAA 12 to NOAA 15. So they're trying to be more responsive to it. We are working on updating those maps. They're not free. So we've been doing a lot of appropriation requests at the federal level through Rep. Buchanan and through the state level to try to help cover some of those costs, and we're covering some of them ourselves.
So my question back to you related to that, is that something that the citizens of Manatee County could do to advocate to Byrd Buchanan to say, we support this, we know we need this to make good decisions, responsible development?
It never hurts to advocate, but fortunately, both at the federal level and state level, they're well aware of the need for this. We're not getting pushback. I don't think more people calling and saying, hey, we need this is going to compel them anymore. They're doing what they can to get us as much money as they understood what happened with Debbie. They understood what happened with the storm inundations from Helene. We're not the only county dealing with it. So they're well aware. They're doing everything in their power.
So it could be compelling that it's really, how do you advocate to the reps, to the legislative people in other states that are like, why should Florida get more money like that?
When you get to the federal level, I mean, people act like at the federal level, like we used to go up there and advocate for our appropriations in DC. They don't care. These budget things are like 20,000 pages long, and it's got everything from, the actual budget to God knows how many other made up things they cram in the back of it. Nobody pays attention to what's in there. Everyone up there gets their allocation of you get this much money, you get this much money, especially if you're in the prevailing party or you're chair of something. It's more a matter of Congressman Buchanan saying, I want this. No, okay, that's your share, and he gets it.
Okay, so then your answer to the road classification workshop.
Okay, that's okay. Okay, this is something I'm actually going to be talking about. I don't know if any of you see my Substack, but I write a lot of Substacks, like longer form, kind of explaining either something going on locally or just general speaking. Right now I'm writing general stuff. I just wrote something on development. The next one's on affordable housing, and then the one close to the end of the year is going to be on infrastructure.
Okay, I do read them, thank you.
Sure. Part of this is going to be, that infrastructure one later this year is going to be on LOS, level of service. All roads are designated, well, not all roads, but any roads that's a thoroughfare or anything is designated with a level of service, and they go from A to F. There's been a lot of conversation, and this is where where your talk came up relative to Buckeye. I think it was the project on Alan Jones's property over by
Sure.
Piney
I have
Point,
no
I think
idea.
it was.
I don't even know where Buckeye, I've been here twice for a class, and then tonight. It took me 45 minutes to get here. God bless all of you to drive all over this county.
Yeah, so all roads are designated with a level of service. I think the discussion we had, and I don't recall the exact discussion, but it's part of what I was gonna write about in a month or so, is there's this fallacy in my mind, again, this is my opinion, that the higher the letter, the A's and the B LOS roads are inherently better.
That is exactly what the discussion was
Yes,
about.
and I fundamentally disagree with this. And so do most people who are engineers understand. What the level of service designation is has nothing to do with safety whatsoever. It literally doesn't consider safety. 1,000 people could get killed on a road and it could still have an LOS of A. Whereas another road could have 0 fatalities for a decade and have an LOS of D. LOS literally has to do with what your slowdown is and what the congestion is during peak time on that particular road. That's all it does. So, in fact, if you were to try to fix a road by putting a bus lane on there, to take cars off that road, but that bus had to stop to pick people up every now and then and slow down traffic, that bus would literally cause the level of service on that road to decline by the definition of level of service. Like, you would actually technically make that road worse by taking cars off of it simply because one of the vehicles is a bus and has to stop to pick people up. That's why level of service, I think, is just a ridiculous thing to rely upon. If anything, if you're trying to handle safety, you're better off with the lower level. That's why a lot of engineers say you're better off, and this is something I think I may have said in that meeting, but I know I've said it. I'd rather us design all of our roads to a LOS D on purpose. And here's why. First off, you die less when you're driving slower. We had this conversation about the roundabouts. So it's okay if there's a little bit of congestion, because I'd rather you get to work 5 minutes late but still get to work. Okay? So, but also people try to get these LOS A's and B's to impress people by putting 8 lanes, 10 lanes, 20 lanes. I mean, they just keep building wider and wider, because guess what? If there's an 8-lane road through Lakewood Ranch, nobody's ever gonna be congested. No one's ever gonna be, people are gonna be driving 80 miles an hour, but you're gonna turn that into an LOS A. Is that really the best use of your tax dollars? That I just spent over $8 million a lane mile adding extra lanes to a road that doesn't need it to get you someplace faster 30 seconds sooner, while inherently making that road less safe to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars of tax money that could be better spent on sidewalks and crosswalks and, you know, intersections? No, it is not. If you build to an A or a B, you've overbuilt, in my opinion, and I'm using a finite amount of money that could be better spent someplace else. So that's probably the conversation we have. I strongly disagree with anyone's impression that if you're not an A or a B and sees the problem, that somehow this is a broken road and you shouldn't allow other cars near it. That is not true. That does not imply a safer road. Usually it implies a less safe road that you spent too much money.
Okay, so then related to land use still.
Okay.
So after something has been, like, it's quasi judicial, we get a notice, and then you guys vote on things, and so there were 2 no's. I'm not trying to make this about these properties, but I will if it helps you.
Depends on when it was. If it was
So
the last
one-
meeting, I can't even talk about it.
No, it wasn't the last meeting, these were back in June. So one is related to the Lakewood Ridge apartments.
Can't talk about that one.
Because there's a
It's
lawsuit.
yes.
So the homeowners from that area, that, I don't know if anybody else is here, the concern is, we don't know what's going on because it's in a lawsuit.
Right.
So how do citizens find out when, like?
I mean, it's in a lawsuit, so you could look on the clerk's site. I mean, the
And
clerk
then-
keeps track of all court documents. I can't even speak to it, and nobody can speak to it because we're a party to that lawsuit.
So I understand that. So when the lawsuit is settled, then would Manatee post the outcome of the lawsuit or no? Or that would just stay on the clerk stuff?
Typically, well, it would stay on the clerk stuff. We don't send out press releases about lawsuits. Bad press. But usually what happens on a lawsuit like that, and I'm going to speak generally, I'm not speaking specifically.
Right, yeah, be general.
Usually it doesn't get to a final conclusion during the court. What happens usually, because it's a Burke-Harris type act, is it'll get to some level of a mediated agreement that still needs to be discussed at the board. So they'll either come back and be like, I can speak to old stuff. 2 examples. One was the property on 70 directly in front of Terra. That was the Lake Lincoln lawsuit, where someone wanted to build there. The Terra people pushed back. The board at that time, I wasn't on it, voted no, got sued. The final conclusion was the court said either let them build what they want to build, or you have to buy their land for like $3.5 million. So now you all own $3.5 million of nothing, because there was going to be a CVS there. So that's $3.5 million of your money, but it's not in reserves, so we spent it.
It's open space.
Yes, sure, it's a park, it's a park. The other scenario would be, they come back, and I can speak to this one because it's done as well. There's land right next to Panther Ridge on the back for lack of a better term, entrance to concession. And the developer wanted to build 21 homes there. It went back and forth, got declined a bunch of times. They sued us over it. They came back and the courts negotiated to like 17 homes. And that had to come in front of the board. That got approved. I still voted no, and I think Commissioner Beard or somebody else voted no. So there was 2 scenarios. One was, okay, fine, don't let them build, but you have to pay them $3.5 million. The other is let them build this, and this is what we're effectively allowing them to build. So something like that one, you'll hear about it because there's no scenario other than them just dropping the lawsuit where it wouldn't come back in front of the board in some way, shape, or form with whatever the settlement is.
Okay. So how about one that gets declined, not aware of a lawsuit, the owner of the property had 30 days from the decline date to resubmit a new proposal that might have been acceptable to the commissioners, et cetera. And they didn't do it.
Okay.
So would that mean, and they don't have to make public notice again on the property, that there's another land use hearing? So what could be going on related to the property, AKA off on Tuttle, the horse farm, that they wanted to put the apartments on? What could be how do the citizens know what's going on related to that they have to resubmit a plan and it has to go through the process again?
It depends. If they're proposing something that is not materially different, I'm trying to figure out where this. If it's not materially different than the project that previously went in front of the planning commission, then it no longer has to go back in front of the planning commission. They would have to notice their new hearing for the Board of County Commissioners, but they wouldn't have to necessarily go through the whole process on step 1. If it was formally declined, or if they were making material changes.
Declined it.
Formally declined it. If we formally declined it, then they could come back, if it's quasi, they can't come back to us for 12 months unless they make material changes. If they make material changes, it's deemed a new project. Then they have to start from scratch, go through the pre-app, the regular app has to go to planning commission and come in front of us.
All right, that's what the citizens that have a lot of time on their hands don't know the answer to. So now I have the answer, and I can
Yeah,
share
if it's
that.
material change, then they have to go.
Public notice, so I'm looking for a yellow sign on that.
Correct, 100%.
Got it, good.
You, and then,
Thanks. I have a 2-part question.
man, everyone's coming in with
The first part is still the gas station thing, right? So what do you recommend that we do in order to make sure our voice is being adequately heard?
I can't speak to that, honestly. I mean, it has, like I said, we've gotten thousands of emails. We're all well aware. There's not a commissioner on my board that is not well aware that somebody may or may not be proposing a gas station on that corner. Everybody is waiting to see if information is presented. And like I said, I'm going to find out.
And that's the other question. It leads to the other question. So we sent thousands of emails out. We've got thousands of petitioners that have signed a petition saying that we don't want to see this go forward. We want to see something else, some other type of a business, something less intrusive and less cumbersome traffic-wise. So we sent thousands of emails and we got no answer back from a single commissioner.
Sure, and that's not surprising, for two reasons.
It's surprising to me.
Well, I mean, you would have sat and literally responded to thousands of emails that were the same email over, and just sat there
Response.
just over and over like Bruce Almighty, just. I mean, here's the thing. We don't have an answer. We don't know. Like I said, we didn't know this existed until the emails came in. So all I would have done was had Dana sit there miserably for days and days and weeks on end, typing, "We have no information on this, thank you for your email." That's what we would have typed over and over and over again. It's not productive. I mean, sometimes, like, and you're using yours as an example, but where do you draw the line? When there was an incident in the city of Palmetto a few years ago, one commissioner got over 100,000 emails about it because Kim Kardashian tweeted about it. Should he have responded to over 100,000 emails? Where's the line? When there's Taylor Ranch, Garrett Mitchell, what's he called? Cletus McFarland, he posted about it, and he's got millions of followers. We got tens of thousands of emails. Should I respond to tens of thousands? I mean, it's just not practical. I mean, a lot of emails we get are one directional. I mean, every project that comes up on our land use, we get emails about. Sometimes it may be 10, sometimes it may be thousands.
Library guest. The library will be closing in 30 minutes at 8 o'clock. If you have any materials you would like to check out or would like to apply for a library card, please come to the information desk at this time. Please be aware that the public computers will automatically shut down in 20 minutes. The library will be closing in 30 minutes at 8 o'clock. Thank you.
You all have library cards? Now's your chance. So anyway, we do have it. I don't have an answer to you about what the next steps are because nobody on our board has any more information. I'm going to try to find out what the timeline is, and if you guys all have some sort of a text chain or whatever it is, then I'll get that information for you. It'll put you one step forward. I'm telling you right now to your face, everybody on my board is well aware that there's something. So that's all, I mean, that's all you can hope for, honestly, because we can't do anything. We can't proactively, I can't call a developer and tell him what he is or is not allowed to do. It's what he's legally allowed to do versus not legally allowed to do. If he's trying to make some modification to a site plan, a DRI or whatever, and he has to come in front of this board, they're all well aware that this board has been made aware of this situation. And our board's been pretty firm about being flexible on some stuff like this, so. But I can't speak to it until I know more. It's not fair to the applicant, it's not fair to any of you just to make stuff up. So I'll wait for information, but I will let you know what the next steps are. Who else? You.
Thank you. I'm new to this as well. Just a more general question. Can you speak to how the county balances approving permits to build versus protecting some green space? Because just, I mean, the optics are, you know, we're here like bought 5 years ago, and obviously the changes are immense. But a lot of the charm and the reason that I think many people have moved here is because of some of, you know, what you see and the green space. And that is just disappearing. And, you know, we feel like I can't compete with a builder who can pay, you know, all this money, or the optics are they have the money, they're gonna get what they want. And it's like going further east, you know, Lakewood Ranch seems to be expanding. It's just it's saddening because like all the things we loved about being here are being taken away. It feels like every blade of grass is being developed. And the animals, as was mentioned before, it's heartbreaking. Like they literally have nowhere to go. I mean, every clump of trees you see cleared, and we hope that there are people, you know, in the county that, you know, are on the board that do love the nature here and want to protect it. I mean, really for all of Florida, but it's taking away the reason we moved here.
Sure. And not to, I'm not gonna say, because I'll sound mean. I mean, I moved here, well, I grew up in Sarasota, but I moved up here almost 20 years ago, and I'm sure there are animals in your subdivision. I mean, you know, you moved here 5 years ago, and that's awesome. I'm really glad you're here, but there were people who moved here 10 years ago. They're probably mad that you got here. And I was probably mad that people 10 years ago got here. Like, everybody, like literally everybody wanted, so, you know, there's a reality to it. We have, here's the thing, we have an FDAB line, and I know a few things got approved on the other side of it, and we're trying to fix it with the 2128, but 65% of the land in Manatee County is still zoned ag and conservation. 2/3 of the land in Manatee County is still not even zoned for any future development whatsoever. That's not insignificant. Go to Pinellas, zero land in Pinellas is zoned for agriculture. It's fully built. Now they have to knock stuff down to build new stuff. You know, you look at, Miami-Dade, you look at, Duval, you look at this place, they're all built out.
But I mean,
Even Sarasota, like Sarasota, people, you talk about a lot of people talk about State Road 70 and the congestion on it because of development. There is no development in Manatee County on State Road 70 east of 675. Sarasota built all the way to their border on Verna. So all the traffic on State Road 70 that's tying it up from Mayaca isn't coming from Manatee County because nothing was built out there. It's all coming from Sarasota, the people who don't want to take Fruitville, so they pop up to State Road 70 and take our State Road 70 down. So that's where that traffic and congestion is coming from. So we've been way more thoughtful than Sarasota, who's built all the way out and just approved High Hat Ranch and everything else that they're trying to build out there. We have minimum open space requirements, depending on what you're building, anywhere from like 25 to 50% open space. Most of our projects are coming out in that 35 to 40%, so there's a fair bit of open space on projects. Outside of the few projects that got approved east of the FDAB, all of the projects being approved are west, and that's what it's for. Like, I was on a webinar earlier today with 1,000 Friends of Florida. And they're big on environment, they're big on thoughtful growth. They have a lawsuit on Senate Bill 180 right now. I mean, people would hold them up as sensible people that are here to protect the people who are here today. But they made a very valid point. Like, if you say no to everything, then you're losing the argument. Like, that's not how development works. Like, right now, the state is contemplating talking to their OPAGA study, doing an OPAGA study about potentially getting rid of all development boundaries. Like, we have a development boundary that basically says 2/3 of our land can't be built on, only 1/3 can be built on, then people are like, don't build on that 1/3. Like, what's the point of having that line? What's the point of the line? If we're promising we're gonna protect 2/3 of all the land for all the animals and all the green space and all the grass, we're just gonna build on this piece over here, and I'm like, don't build on that piece either. It's like, why even have that line? Like, why not just, because what's the point of it?
See, I didn't know that, I'm asking the question. So, and I do see things how they're redefined from agriculture to, however it's all defined to be residential and all that. So, I mean, that part, I don't know. Now, are they, and I guess the feeling or the optics are that will just be changed. That like every agricultural definition will be changed to residential or commercial.
Sure.
So, I mean, I'm hoping that we could hear that that's not.
Well, we have the FDAB line, and this board has been pretty consistent that we're holding firm on that FDAB line, which is protecting all of the land zoned agriculture east of it. Can you still build on that land? Sure you can. Everyone has. Everyone who lives out there has. I mean, you can build one house per 5 acres on agriculture. You can build one house per 1 acre on A1, like Panther Ridge and places like that. We just had a project come in front of us out in West Manatee that was zone A1, which allowed, as of right, 1 house per acre, and then people yelled at us about letting them build 1 house per acre. Like, you can't complain about people building 1 house per acre as of right on the zoning they already have, because when people can't build where they're supposed to build, that's when they start going out east. Because it's cheaper. It's cheaper to buy land out east. It's cheaper to build on flat land than it is to cobble together parcels and redevelop stuff and tear things down out west. You gotta make it more as of right and more some assurance out west. So we already, we did pass the environmental land tax in 2020. So all of your taxes have a 0.15 mil on there. So we're collecting that money. This board's been using that money. We bought land to expand Emerson Point. We bought land to start expanding Rye Preserve. I'm trying to buy more land to turn Rye Preserve into a more substantial preserve off of Rye by Upper Manatee. We bought land to the north of Crane Park to expand Crane Park. We bought land off of Betts, bought land north of the river, just south of Old Tampa Road. So we've been buying land and turning it into conservation or removing the development rights from it to work on conservation. We just bought Mixons, and D.R. Horton had had a bid in to try to buy that for townhomes. And we bought that land, and that's going to be preserved for everybody out there. So this board has been actively looking to buy strategically located land that's either environmentally sensitive or beneficial to the community. But again, it's to the extent there's funds available to do it, because we don't have any money, it's all of your money. And so there's a limit to people reach out to us and say, such and such developer wants to build this big thing over here, buy that land so they can't build. It's like, if I just try to front run every developer and buy every parcel of land at market price, we're gonna be bankrupt in 30 days. Like, that's not a practical solution to anything, so we're trying to be thoughtful.
Is it accurate to say, like, if it is defined as agricultural, that you can say no to a developer who wants to make it, like, a house per quarter acre?
Sure. Again, it all comes down to the reasonableness test to it. If it's east of the FDAD, we could say no anytime we want, because that's clearly defined in our land development code that you're not supposed to build out there.
What is that you're saying, the F?
The FDAD, the future development area boundary. Down here, it more or less goes up Bornside.
Okay.
So it goes all the way up Bornside effectively to Lake Manatee, and then it like loops around by the dam. And then it starts shooting straight up kind of where Rye and 675 hit, and then it jogs around it. It's all quirky after that, so I'm not gonna pretend to know where it's going, but it's up there. But down here, it's basically Bornside. Anything east of Bornside is on the other side. Nothing has development rights east of there, and we have no obligation to build roads or provide water or utilities out east of that. So, so ag out there is fine. Ag on this side is still ag, it still has to get permission. The board still has a right to decline the rezone, but anything east of the line, there's two maps. There's a current zoning map, which is what your zoning is right this minute. And as long as you're gonna build based on that, you can do it right now. And then there's a future land use map, which is part of the comprehensive plan. That says, that map was drawn in 1989, I think. That map says, here's what your future zoning is gonna be. It's not that now, because you didn't ask for it, and you don't wanna pay the taxes on the value of that, but this is what we conceptually think you should be allowed to build in the future. The question always then becomes, well, the future from 1989 is today, but it's not technically today. So the board has to assess, okay, does it make sense now? And it really comes down to, if this place is already building residential, and this place is building residential, and this place is still in zone ag because they just didn't get around to asking for it, now that's where you start getting into the questions of the court cases, because now you have to try to argue why you're gonna decline this person who owns this land, it's their private property, when this person's building houses, this person's building houses, and you're saying, nope, not you.
Yeah.
Like, that just becomes a problem, and that's why the state starts stepping in with things like Senate Bill 180. Last year, they tried to pass something called agricultural enclaves to avoid this, because they said if you own ag land that's surrounded by at least 50 or 75%, it went through different versions, residential, then you could build residential on as of right, you don't even have to ask permission. Because they're like, it's not fair that someone approved this one and this one, and then you didn't give the right donations to the right people.
Right, I understand. I just think there needs to be a balance, that's all.
But there are organizations working on conserving land.
Yeah.
Correct, and we have Big Waters,
Exactly.
working on conservation of land. We have Trust for Public Land that helped us with our LMAC tax. They're also working with us on the trail system I'm working on. So there are, and then you have the state. The state is Florida Forever. Wilton Simpson is the agricultural commissioner. He's working on a big wildlife corridor. I'm working with them. In fact, I met with him and his team a few months ago to try to connect Mayaca all the way up through Duet Preserve and up to Little Manatee to create a wildlife corridor through Manatee. That would also create a green buffer effectively for future development. So we're working on that as well. So we are working on things. I see it when you're driving, you see stuff get built. I mean, I grew up in Sarasota when I used to ride a bike on a 2-lane Fruitville. And when we were up here, we'd only go partway down 70 because then it turned dirt road after you passed a Walmart. So, I mean, it's certainly a different world than it used to be. And it's an ever-changing thing. But since COVID, we've averaged over 12,000 people per year moving here. And our home prices have doubled, and our rent has doubled, in large part because demand has far outstripped supply. That's how economics works. And so you can make an argument, don't build anything else, but then the next argument's gonna be saying, I can't afford to live here. So I'm a teacher of your kid, but I'm moving to South Pinellas because I can't afford to live here. Now I can't come and teach your kid, or I can't stay after class because I gotta get back across the Skyway. It's a vicious cycle, and I get it. It's a balancing act. And everyone's just trying to figure out how best to balance it.
Thank you, it's reassuring.
Did you have a question or you wave?
George, it's 18 minutes and you haven't addressed the trash question yet, which I'm sure is going to be quite lengthy.
Well, I'm trying to hit people with, I got 6 hands raised.
All right, I just a little bit add on to that. First of all, I just want to say I appreciate listening to many commission meetings and I hear your feedback and you say things like, just because we can doesn't mean we should. I feel like you're very thoughtful around, what really should go there. So I appreciate that. And then just kind of longer term, looking at like roads like 64 and how it's being developed and it's really become gas stations, apartments, and fast food. And do you see a vision for there's any, along with smart development, any beautification and making it look nicer than what it is today?
Specific to 64?
Yeah.
64 is tough because it's a state road, not us. I will say the previous board before the last election was trying to sell off the Musgrave property. I wasn't a big fan of us buying it because it was way overpriced. I still think it's way overpriced. If you drove down 64, you see 3 crosses on the hill, a bunch of cows. All the land behind that is the Musgrave property. That was purchased by the previous board, before I got on the board.
So that's owned by Manatee County?
Yes, we own it. Other than the 8 acres right on the frontage, that was retained by Musgrave. Everything behind it, but the previous board was trying to sell that off for home building and apartment stuff. This board not only canceled those contracts, but we permanently
Good
changed
evening, library guests. The library will be closing in 15 minutes at 8 o'clock. If you have any materials you would like to check out or would like to apply for a library card, please come to the information desk at this time. Please be aware that the public computers will automatically shut down in 5 minutes, so please save or print your work at this time. The library will be closing in 15 minutes. Thank you.
No, we completely rezone that to guarantee nothing will ever get built. Like, we started building stuff on it just to make sure that no future board sells it. So we are trying to retain some of the land along this. As for beautification and it being fast food, that's 2 different things. One, it's state road. We can advocate for it through our MPO, through the DOT, ask for some beautification on it. It's at their discretion to some extent. We don't own all the right-of-ways on the side. We can't just plant stuff on other people's property because, again, it's a state road. The fast food thing is quirky because people always ask about gas stations, they ask about car washes, they ask about fast food.
Storage units.
Storage units are a little different from where I'm going with it. The point is, all of those have the same zoning classification. So unless, way back when somebody zoned something, there's a whole list of acceptable uses for like ROR, which is like retail, office, and residential. There's a whole list of things you could build there. At the time of the zoning, somebody could have said, but not gas station, not drive-through. Very rarely does someone actually do that. They just want the full flexibility. So once that's zoned that way, I do not have the authority, nor should any government that's capitalist in any way, shape, or form have the authority to say, you can only build a Chick-fil-A there. Like, I'm not gonna become that kind of government. That's like what you see in China. Like, I'm not gonna be like, okay, you can have the zoning, but it has to be a Chick-fil-A, and then next to it, I want an Outback Steakhouse. Next to it, I'm not gonna plan, or I don't know what's best. So once it's zoned, I don't have a whole lot of say if it's gonna be a Taco Bell or a Chipotle. It's the authority.
It would be nice if we had some stuff that's on University, is up on 64, like, why not?
Sure.
It's just, I don't know how do we attract that?
Well, it's free market, so you
Right.
can build it.
Yeah.
I look forward. I will be there for your ribbon cutting. When you, well, look, but on 64 now, you've got Seasons 52 just opened up.
Yeah, everything's in one spot, yeah, right.
Well, on University, almost everything's in the one spot too, and no one wants to go there because that traffic's just a hornet's nest. If you go down, if you go
down
I'm just
University,
saying,
SRQ, where it's all residential.
yeah, if you go even a little further past UTC, you run into the Burger King, you run into the Dairy Queen, you run into the apartment complex, you run into the gas station. It's no different on University outside of UTC. UTC is entirely owned by Benderson. Benderson's the big fish. And so when Benderson owns something, they're gonna put the best tenants in because they have all the best tenants. If you can go and advocate for Benderson to buy stuff up here, knock yourself out. I'll happily take some Benderson stuff up here. But again, it's free market, so I can't compel people. We've been trying to compel people to build the downtown parish area that we rezoned and put a tip on and everything else to allow for this downtown parish. Nobody's built a single thing. And I just talked to Sherry Corrier and Norma Kennedy, all of them at the Veterans Day parade yesterday. Nobody's building anything. It's like, but I'm not building it as a government. So we have to just do what we can to encourage people, and that's all we can do, really. All right, we've got 13 minutes. And
just real quick, read your Policy 68 newsletter, so appreciate that communication that you send out, and agree with you about, you know, together we should try and do smart planning for all the things that you talked about. And you're like, how does that happen? How does the we happen? Because I appreciated that you said, hey, we should do this together. Like, how do you envision that process happening so we can come together to make it happen?
We have been working on the comprehensive plan rewrite. We had multiple public hearings on that. It's kind of got delayed a little because of the Senate Bill 180. It was pretty much done. We are talking, we were going to have something on the last land use meeting about some of the policy changes, but it was just going to be an item, and I told staff, this is more important than an item on a land use meeting. So early next year, probably in January, February at the latest, we're planning a full work session, possibly a whole day, to talk about some changes to the comprehensive plan we can make now, even with Senate Bill 180 in place. And that'll be open to the public, and we'll be encouraging people to come and give suggestions. The real way of doing it, which is a much longer process, is to have a true vision of growth. And way back before I got on the board,
the library will be closing in 10 minutes at 8 o'clock. If you have any materials you would like to check out, please come to the library information desk at this time. The library will be closing in 10 minutes. Thank you.
before I got on board, I think it was 2017, they did something called How Will We Grow? And it was a big thing. And Orange County just finished something, although Senate Bill 180 made them put it on the shelf, called Vision 2050. And Sarasota had something called Vision 2040, which they've just kind of mangled up to shreds. But the thought was there. That's the better way of doing it, is to have a big public, like, here's a vision of where we want to grow, how we want to grow. Because like I said in that Substack from the other day, the issue is, the answer is not nothing, because you can't build 5,000 houses and no grocery store.
Right.
Because those 5,000 people are now going to get in their car and drive 5, 7, 10 miles down the road, tying up all the road to get to that other grocery store. It's not practical. There has to be the retail following the rooftops. There has to be the infrastructure following it. You have to be thoughtful about it. And we can't, we just almost declined a high school on my board. Lakewood High School is already over capacity today, and this high school is not going to be over for 2 years now. And we were going to delay that whole high school by an entire year if that got declined. That's not thoughtful planning. I mean, I understand people saying, let's not build something, but that's not, the answer is not build something, because you're just going to break everything if you do that. There has to be employment close to where people live. There has to be retail so you can capture the trips so people want to drive so far. And there has to be schools so your kids can get taught and they're not in overcapacity classrooms. So, but that's a bigger, broader discussion, and we've done it in the past. I think it was 2017, so probably about 10 years.
Right, so the comprehensive plan meetings are really the opportunity to get in.
Correct, and we had a handful of them, then it got finalized, but Senate Bill 180 made us stay it. But we are working on things we can still pass even with Senate Bill 180, about lot sizes, about incentives for things like affordable housing, mixed use, so forth. And that, we decided, instead of putting it on the last land use meeting, to have as a separate work session, and that'll be a publicly noticed meeting that will encourage all the public to come in about it.
That's awesome, because I do think, like you said, previous plans, I think that the assumptions have changed, right? Like you said, through COVID and after COVID, all of a sudden.
Sure, there's a big difference between looking to the future in 2019 and looking to the future in 2021. Because when I got on the board in 2020, we were averaging 5,000 to 7,000 people a year coming here. And in the past 2 years, we had 25,000 people. Nobody could have anticipated that. And that's the state of Florida. The state of Florida is getting 1,000 people a day. Nobody anticipated that. So, there's a vision that has to be considered that wasn't when these previous maps and comp plans were written.
Thank you.
I just want to say, kind of an observation suggestion.
Sure.
This gentleman was talking about thousands of letters or emails that we received, and he said, I get thousands, Kim Kardashian set off hundreds of thousands. Everybody wants to chime in because we live here and you guys are representing us. And so you in these meetings always say that you want to hear from us so that you can represent us the best. So I would just offer up maybe instead of non-responding, when you don't know the answer, just put it on the Facebook page that you mentioned earlier, or where you send out these emails and things and just say, we don't have an answer right now, but we've heard you. Because otherwise, everybody thinks you're not listening. So that's just a suggestion.
I hear what you're saying. That said, if I posted something on Facebook saying I don't have an answer about a gas station, I would get somewhere on 200 to 300 comments just blasting the county about something else. Like, Facebook is not a practical source of communication, in all honesty. And the fact that no other commissioner even uses Facebook, nobody at the state level uses Facebook, none of the school board members use Facebook. I'm pretty much the only one who actively is on there. Everything just kind of like focused to me. Like, none of the other commissioners posted anything on Facebook. They didn't know either, because we just don't know. It's a hypothetical thing. But if someone reaches out, that's why I always encourage people. I give out my contact information all the time. Like, I tell everyone, if you go to georgekruse.com, that's it, just George Kruse, GeorgeKruse.com. It has every link to my cell phone number, my email address, my Facebook page, my Twitter account, my LinkedIn page, my Substack. Everything you could possibly need to find me is on that one page. And I encourage people, because if someone comes to me one-on-one and asks me a specific question, I will get you a specific answer even if I don't know it. But if thousands of people do it, I'm not going to hop on Facebook and be like, I don't know this. That's not what I use Facebook for. So I appreciate, I do appreciate it. I'm not minimizing what you're saying. But if I had to hop on Facebook and comment every time.
For future knowledge, so one person of that 1,000-member group got in touch with you directly and said, hey, did you receive our emails as a representative of them? You would respond
I would have
and say, yes,
responded,
we
yes,
got them?
100%.
And- Okay, all
100%.
right, so that's.
Dana and I respond to emails, and look, email, like, we've responded to people about whether or not a median can be cut. We responded to things that have nothing to do with us that are, we've reached out and found information.
That's fair, okay.
So, and we're gonna find out this information about the gas station.
Okay.
You promise.
Okay. But
Yes, it's a 2-second answer.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of, in my area, people are really complaining about 1-week delivery trash, and we still paying the same money as we were getting.
Pay a little more.
No kidding.
That's all I have. That was a statement. I'm not sure what the question was on that.
Well, the question was, because everyone is asking why we having 1-week delivery of the trash, and still paying the same, shouldn't be that half of it?
Nope. That's not.
And then the reason why?
The reason why, okay, you got 5 minutes till I get us kicked out of here. Here's why. We don't pick up your garbage. We do not have a trash pickup department in Manatee County. We have a third-party contract, 2 of them, one with Waste Pro, one with Waste Management. So we're at the mercy of what a third-party private company wants to charge for doing something, and we can bid it out to the other companies as well. When people in Mayaca, anybody in Manatee County, when you were previously paying garbage, you were paying garbage based upon a contract that was 13 years old. That was negotiated back in 2012 or something like that. So that, you were massively underpaying for trash. Well, the contract was a 10-year contract. It came up in 2022. They came in to renegotiate the contract. We bid it out to all the big trash pickup people. The garbage cost was going to effectively double what you were going to pay, because that's how inflation works, and that's how a 10-year contract coming to the end of it, now I'm going to do a new one, it was going to double. I said people care more about service. You're talking an extra 10, 15 bucks a month. People would rather have platinum level service. I voted to just increase the cost and give everyone the same service. Sarasota's only once a month, or once a week. Pinellas only once a week. That's what everyone around us says. I voted just to keep the service because I didn't think a couple extra bucks was as big of a deal. All the public, thousands of emails came, no, do not increase we're saving, we need to save money, every penny counts. So the board voted no. We had to go through a full renegotiation, went through a bunch of extensions, finally got to something where it only went up like $4 a month or something like that. But it was only once a week pickup and limits on yard waste and so forth. And I said, this is a bad idea. I said, people would rather pay the extra 10, 15, 20 bucks a month and get the great service that we had. The rest of the board disagreed. All the people on email apparently disagreed because they all thought it should be just be whatever's cheapest. This is what you get, cheapest. And that's why it went up a little, because we're not collecting any money off this. It's a negotiation of the absolute lowest price contract we could come up with, because people said they wanted the lowest price trash. And so that's how you ended up paying effectively the same amount, technically a few dollars more for a lesser service, because the contract expired, we had to negotiate a new contract. We had an opportunity to do the same service, but it would have been a little more. I supported that. I think one other commissioner supported it, the rest of them did not.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Don't look at
Okay.
me. Thank you.
Oh, I'm not looking, I'll sit here until I don't care. I'm getting you.
This is super helpful. Thank you for your leadership after back hurricanes last year. I appreciate you. My question to you, like, as a dad, if when your daughter was still at Mona Jane and they wanted to put a gas station across the street from Mona Jane, would you as a father be supportive of that? I guess that's my only question.
Again, I'm not gonna answer.
But it's not related, it's hypothetical.
There's nothing out there.
I can't answer that.
That's
one
one
fair
question.
question.
As a father, would you want to see a gas station across the street?
Again, I don't have an answer. Even if I had an answer, I'm not going to imply that I'm making decisions based upon my personal life. That's not fair to everybody. People ask me that all the time. Would you approve an affordable housing project next to your neighborhood? It's like, well, if I say not in my neighborhood, like that defeats the purpose. I truly do. I hear what you're saying. Look, believe me, this is something that is on the radar of everybody in all 7 of the commissioners.
Yeah, because I don't understand if it is illegal to build a gas station less than 500 feet, then how could it even get to planning?
Whoa, I didn't say it was illegal to build a gas station. I said it was illegal to sell alcohol and tobacco within 500
But
feet.
most gas stations do. I don't know a gas station that doesn't.
Maybe it's a Mormon gas station.
Okay.